Just in a session on learner engagement and about how you've got to collect data about how engaged your learners are so that you can take steps to do something about it. So I'm just wondering what the data is about people who sit right at the back looking like they're about to leave at any minute. I'm not sure where that sits on my learner engagement scores, but there you go. Feel free to come and talk to me, but anyway, there you go. If you're happy to sit where you are, that's fine, especially if you're near the door, whatever. This is my day job, okay? So I don't just do this. I do have a day job. I work for Huswhite International, and I work on the topic of behaviour change. And specifically when we're changing behaviour, we have to give people behaviours that they know what it is they're supposed to do differently, and we should be able to count it and measure it. And if that sounds tricky to people from the world that you're in, I'll tell you a little bit more about how that works, but I want to basically focus around first principles. So these are the things that I'm going to talk to you about, okay? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this whole issue around skills and what it is and what we call it and how important it is and why we sometimes get it wrong. I'm also going to give you 5 pointers. This is not a process. These are not a set of rules. These are thoughts and perhaps a little bit immature thoughts around what is it that makes a difference and how does that work. So I'm going to give you 5 things that you can go and start thinking about and a couple of things that you can go away and do and just see where you get to, okay? That'd be great. I'll summarize because, tell them what you're going to say, tell them what you said, tell them that stuff, all of that, that's in there. So I'm going to summarize and then I'm going to give you 4 jobs to do, okay? These are your 4 jobs to take away tonight to start doing tomorrow. Does that make sense? Are you all happy with that? Cool. And I'm going to do all that in 25 minutes. All right? Because I promised you could go at 22, all right? So, John Amici mentioned this at the start of the conference, and I'm sorry it's a horrible slide. I've tried my damnedest to get this to fit in some other way, but it doesn't work. So you've just got the page that the World Economic Forum put in their Future of Jobs report. These are the skills which they believe organizations consider to be core in 2025. And they have a taxonomy. So if you're not familiar with the concept of a taxonomy, think about the way we describe animals and things as they're in a part of a group, a genus, a phylum, etc. And then down the bottom you've got an individual dung beetle. Yeah. So they're all part of this kind of taxonomy thing going on. This is their taxonomy. Which means not only do they have a set of skills, but they have a set of skills which are defined by what family it's part of. And the dark blue ones, like this, are cognitive skills. And then the slightly lilac-y purple ones, like the one second down, self-efficacy. Yeah? You can go and look at this. I have a fundamental challenge with this. Number 1, are they really sitting in just one of those taxonomies? Does that help? Is that accurate? And secondly, are they skills? I think a few of them, global citizenship, frankly, somebody at the World Economic Forum was having a laugh that day because that is not a skill. Some of the others may be a collection of behaviors and a collection of skills which, when used together, result in improved analytical thinking, result in improved resilience, flexibility and agility. But in and of themselves, they are meaningless from a learning and development perspective. And yet this is the section which is all about the skills challenge within the Future of Jobs 2025, published by one of the largest global think tanks in the world, where your governments send lots of people. If you ain't scared witless by that, time to start. So what are we going to do about it? Well, first of all, let's go back to a bit of science. What's a skill? Don't take my word for it. This is the Joint Research Council of the European Union Science Hub. They published this 7 years ago. It seems to me to be absolutely accurate. And I'm going to unpack some of that, but I've already given you a few things that are in bold. Practice, you can train it, you can build it from experience, and perhaps most importantly, it can be measured by proficiency in execution. When I see it, I can count it. That also means that it has some standards involved because we're talking about proficiency. How good are you at? Do you do it badly? Do you do it kind of mid-level? Do you do it really well? Are you an expert? Are you a master? And do you know what? We've been doing that for a long time. And we may have kind of forgotten some stuff. Hands up who can tell me when the first apprenticeships started. Sorry?
They always existed somehow.
They always existed somehow is not a bad answer, thank you. Turkey in the 11th century. We have been doing apprenticeships as a formal process for best part of 1200 years. Yeah? And we've always had a process of people learning skills and their proficiency being measured as they proceed through it. So when we're talking about how, we're talking about what skills do I need to do this thing, this task, this job to improve, to progress in my career, whatever it is. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that's our job, okay? Because this is our job. This is why we get a salary. This is why we get employed, to enable people to do things differently and to do different things. Not to know different things, not to know some more stuff, not to be educated, but to be able to do. That's our job. And that's where the power of how comes in. By the way, I'm going to give you a clue. This picture is not AI generated. From here on in, you have to spot all the ones that are and count them. There may be a prize. There may not be. Okay? That's your job. Count how many of these images are AI generated from here on in. So, ask yourself a question. As a learning and development professional, as somebody who works with people within your organizations or within your client organizations to help them build capability and skills, how much time do you spend describing what people should do and how much time do you discuss how they should do it? And from what I read in the way organizations describe their learning and development offers, whether on their careers pages or occasionally when I get privileged access to internal documents because I'm working with them as a consultant, what I see is people tell everybody what they should do. Actually, very rare that anybody talks about how we should do it. And yet, it's tricky. So, if that's a problem that we don't talk about it enough, let's see if my 5 pointers might help you kind of break that impasse. Notice the words. Yeah? We do, don't we? When we are working on something and we are with colleagues, and maybe we've got a colleague who's more experienced, or maybe we've got a colleague who's been recruited because they're a real whiz at doing whatever it is, in most organizations, our natural approach is to go, I'll talk to the person who knows how and ask them to help me. Yeah? So what we are doing here is not doing something which is imposing a set of behaviors, a set of actions on people that they wouldn't normally take. What I'm asking you to do is to harness that natural instinct, which is to say, how do I do this? Can you help me do this? Now, I recognize that's only part of the story, but it's a good start, which is that people will do this naturally. The second thing is curiosity is born of dissatisfaction. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that, for the most part, is that people come to the point of needing to ask the expert with know-how because they are frustrated at not being able to do something. Or they've hit a wall in somewhere and they can't manage to move on. Yeah? They've tried to do something, they can't find it, they can't work out how to do it, so they come to people. Now, when I ask a colleague that, I go, excuse me, I'm really sorry. I'm going to be a real pain. Have you got 5 minutes to show me how to do this? Yeah? And if I'm working with some nice people, they'll go, yeah, of course I have. Or, I haven't now, but I will have at 12 o'clock, or whatever, yeah? So I get that support, maybe not just in time, but pretty close to just in time. And that's terrific. How many of us have a job title which involves the word learning and development? Or something similar, yeah? Quite a few of us, yeah? What happens when they come to us with that same sense of dissatisfaction? Because it's not the same as, oh, excuse me, I wonder if you've got a minute, can you help me? It's the, you've told me I've got to do this and I've got no idea what to do and I don't know how to do it and it's all your fault. And sometimes we can react to that and go, whoa, what's going on here? I haven't done anything wrong. Accept that that is just the reality. Sometimes people will start from a position of you got to find someone to blame that I can't do this because it couldn't possibly be my fault. And you're the person with the word blame written on a big label across your head, if you're not lucky. Okay? So think about that. Think about that dissatisfaction. Think about how you cope with it, because some people will be a bit fed up and some people will be downright hostile. Some people will be nice, don't get me wrong. But we're dealing with dissatisfaction. So I expect people to come with you at the end of a piece of frustrating time to say, help me do this. And some will be happy and some won't be, okay? So then you need to work out how to do how, okay? So we've now got people who are saying, I want to know. I'm so frustrated that I've now got that motivation to go and find someone, and they've come to us, and we have to work out to do that. And this is where my mind works slightly differently from lots of people, okay? Because I am now going to give you Donald Rumsfeld. All right? So for those of you who are not quite old enough to remember, Donald Rumsfeld was the Secretary of State for Defense within the US administration of the older George Bush. And when he said these things, he was pilloried. He was pilloried because people, first of all, viewed it as some kind of doddery old bloke talking word salad. What's he talking about? No knowns, no knowns, and no knowns. What? This is nonsense, yeah? But also because, let's not forget, as the US Secretary of Defense, he's also in charge of some of the intelligence services, so the fact that he's talking about unknown unknowns, there are things we don't know, kind of makes people a little bit nervous. And again, they're going to find somebody to blame. It's like, how do you mean we don't know this stuff? Why do we employ spies if we don't know this stuff? This is making me nervous, yeah? So that's why, okay? Any of you familiar with the Gordon competency ladder? Yeah, a few people kind of shaking their hands. For those of you who don't know it in those terms, conscious incompetence, unconscious incompetence, unconscious competence, conscious, yeah, etc. That stuff. Yeah, it's that stuff, okay? Isn't that what we're talking about? Things we know, and we know them. Conscious competence, or perhaps conscious incompetence, so I know about what I'm supposed to do, might not know how to do it, etc., etc. Yeah, same stuff. And that helps dealing with how to do how. So first of all, my known knowns, many of those people will have an idea of what they should do. They might not know precisely how to do it or how to do it as well as they could do. Okay? Maybe muddling through. But this is stuff that they're reasonably comfortable with. Known unknowns, they might not quite understand what they're supposed to do, and they probably don't understand how to do it. But at least they know there's a gap in their understanding, a gap in their practice, and they might be proactive in coming to find us for help. This area, they're not going to be proactive in coming for help. And when we talk to them about it, they're going, what? Why are we doing that? When am I doing that? How am I going to do that? What? Yep. So they're not going to be proactively involved in that process, and we have to help them. So what does that do in terms of how we develop learning interventions or learning programs, etc.? First of all, if I am dealing with an audience for whom the what is understood and they might need some help in refining the how or coming up with new ways of doing the how, my process should be based around practice, experimentation, experience sharing and feedback. Reflection and feedback, yeah? In other words, this ain't a course. This ain't an e-learning module. This ain't a formal process. This is giving people chance to get it wrong and learn from having that experience. Okay? With support and feedback, very important. What am I going to do with the known unknowns then? Well, I want to get some experiences out there. So what do you know about this? You know you don't know all of it, but what do you know? Let's start from there. How are we going to deal with that? I tell you what, let's get a team of people who have similar issues to deal with, get them involved in joint problem solving, get peers involved in that as it moves back into the workplace, and coach. Who's going to do that coaching? If I tell you that the book that I am currently working on is entitled Why Managers Don't Coach and What to Do About It, you might find one of the answers that you may have come up with probably ain't going to work. Okay? So actually somebody needs to be able to do that. That might be subject matter experts. It might be other people within the team. How many of you work in an environment where you have a contact center or some kind of opportunity for people to either ring in or make phone calls in teams? Anybody working in that environment? A couple of people got their hands up. And what do you have within each of those teams? A team leader and a coach. Somebody who is not the manager, but who has time within their schedule to do that. How many times do we expect people to coach, but we don't give them any time and space to do it? A lot is the answer to that question. Guess what? Doesn't happen. Nobody should be surprised. This one down here might involve us asking people to do things which are counterintuitive. So we can't just put them in a room and say, do a bit of problem solving together, do a bit of experience sharing, let's see if we can work out how to do this together, because they haven't got a clue what we're asking them to do. We're asking them to do things which on the surface of what we're saying feels like it shouldn't work, or feels like it's a major change that I'm not prepared to make yet because I don't know why I'm supposed to be doing it. That's where you build programs, and that, I would argue, is the only place that you build programs. So you're going to build a learning program which you want to get people to get to a degree of how. This is where you do it, and the fact that that program just says build a program, please, 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 please do not think that that means it doesn't also involve this and doesn't also involve that, because they do. You have to extend the how into the point where the capability is required, which means it has to go into the workflow. Has to go into the workplace. You have to practice this for real. How many have got values within your organization? Value statements, maybe you've got a list of them somewhere, got them on your website somewhere, got them on your stuff that you give to people on induction. How many of them would reject a set of values which talks about we treat each other with respect and kindness? Would anybody not ask people to do that? So one of the big challenges that we have about how, particularly when we're asking our experts to provide that how, to answer those questions, to support people who don't quite know how to do things, is that sometimes they go, I'm too busy doing other things. So one of the advices that I will give you is to say, make this part of your values. If responding positively to somebody who comes to you and say, excuse me, have you got a minute, how do you do this? Is perceived within your organization as respect and kindness to that individual, why wouldn't anybody do that if that's part of your values? What's more, why wouldn't you take action if they didn't do it because it's not associated with your values? Now, this is not a compliance, this is not about measuring people's inactivity in this area, but it is primarily about encouraging. At some point further down the line, you are going to have to have words with people who don't do that repeatedly, but not yet. Let's worry about that later. For the first part, make it that stuff, and then make how go viral. This is our collaborative platform, which we use within our organization. And you will see it involves people in having communication, sharing information with each other. Essentially what we do is we give people short bite-sized pieces of content and we ask them to respond to that, and we respond to that in a public forum within their cohort with a group of other learners, and they ask and provide support to each other. And I'm a facilitator, so that's me down there. Okay, so I get involved as well, and everybody within the cohort can read all of this. What I want to tell you about this, though, is not about the fact that there is that mechanism to do it. What I want to tell you about it is that Marion, who is one of my colleagues, because this is an internal test program, which we sent to all our people and asked them to do it for real. We didn't ask them to play about, we said do it for real. Marion has been with the organization for 3 or 4 years. She is inside sales. She sits in the office. She's massively underconfident. Very good at a job, but massively underconfident. David, learner, notice, not in there as a facilitator or a coach or anything else, is the director of sales. He's been in the organization for 27 years. And his response when asked to say, what sort of needs would you like your customers to have, is this: I need to shorten my sales cycles, because she's selling into sales directors. And David immediately comes up with, okay, so you could follow that up with a couple of other questions like this. And then he says, this is a very clear need, Marion. Commendation. If you were trying to uncover that need from your spin questions, how would you clarify and extend it so it was more strongly and urgently expressed? A bit of, you could do these things, and a bit of, so how would you solve the problem? And because this platform is available to everybody who is within a particular learning group at all levels, all I need to do as the trainer is pop in and go, like, because it's gone viral. But it's gone viral because we created the environment in which it is seen and transparent. And every time somebody makes a comment on there, Marianne gets an email to say, somebody's commented on your post, do you want to have a look at it? Now, you don't need to have our platform to do that. You can do that in Slack, you can do that in Teams, you can do that in any of those mechanisms that you use every day. You can do it in WhatsApp if you wanted to. But make it go viral, because it is infectious. So, I said I'd finish at a reasonable time, and I will do. So, summary, build the power of how. These are the things that I want you to take away. About doing something can be improved by practice, application, and feedback. If you are training people to do something and you cannot define what that something is that they need to do, and you cannot work out how to improve it by practice and how to measure whether or not it has improved in application, it is not a skill. That doesn't mean it's worthless, it's just don't talk about upskilling and reskilling in the same sentence as that thing. Okay? Remember the 5 pointers, we've talked them through, I don't need to rehearse them. You can read it quicker than I can. And then remember Rumsfeld. And you know what, in about 2 months' time, I may see some of you again at some other event or at another World of Learning, and I'm talking about, what do you remember about that? And everybody will say, oh yeah, Rumsfeld. No idea why, just remember Rumsfeld. That's the way that this stuff works, isn't it? But please don't think that's enough, because here's your jobs. Okay? First of all, if you're planning to upskill or reskill your colleagues, which part of your planned interventions deal with how? Have a look. Let's look at the design. You don't need to self-flagellate. There's no need to beat yourself up. There's no need to be massively hypercritical of yourself, but just say, do we actually help people move from I know what to do to I know how to do it and apply it in the workplace? Have you built that into your learning design, not just hoped that when people leave the classroom they'll go and do some stuff? Because most of them won't. Well, they will. They'll go back and they'll deal with all those emails that they haven't answered because they've been in your classroom for the past 2 days, yeah? And by that time, it's gone. So instant how, right after whatever intervention you give them. Secondly, how will your skill development initiative move into that final stage of the definition of a skill, which is measuring proficiency in execution? If you're interested in impact, if you're interested in return on investment, if you're interested in making a business case for further investment, that is where you get it from. So go and check whether or not people are doing it and whether or not they're doing it to the standard that you hoped they would. And then take action, both to amplify the people who are doing it really well and to amplify the practice which is working and to address some of the practices that are a little bit suboptimal. Yeah, makes sense? Not difficult. Just takes time. Where are your people now? Meet them where they are. Don't assume that they know why they should be doing it or what they should be doing. Don't assume that because they know what, they're going to know how. It doesn't work. You have to show them it. You have to walk alongside them with it. You have to occasionally hold their hands as they take those baby steps. One of the people that I work with quite regularly is Professor Robert Brinkhoff, came up with the success case method. Very interesting guy, has a very simple mantra. And that mantra is walk, crawl, run. Do you take people from crawling to walking to running? Crawl, walk, run. Very simple. How are you going to do that? And then finally, who is best placed to answer the how questions? And I'm afraid to say, ladies and gentlemen, the chances are they're not in the learning and development department. So how are you going to harness their ability, their knowledge, the memory that they hold within the organization? How are you going to enlist those people who are experts within your organization to answer the questions? Find them, work with them, speak very nicely to them, occasionally bring them a chocolate biscuit with their coffee, whatever it takes in your organization. Ingratiate yourself with the people who've got expertise and knowledge about how things work, how things get done, because they are invaluable. And particularly if they are what we call referent individuals. They are people who, regardless of their role, regardless of their position in the hierarchy, people naturally associate with a level of expertise. You need them involved. That's me. That's how to get in touch with me. That QR code takes me to my LinkedIn page. If you want to connect, ask further questions, please do so. Have you enjoyed the conference? Great stuff. It wasn't quite like doing a Butlins briefing before you got on the coach, which I appreciate. So thank you for not actually bringing all of your cases into the room with you. I do appreciate that very much. Can I wish you all a very safe journey home? If you are due to pick up some merch or other, please go and do so now. Remember, we are back, not here, but the National Exhibition Centre in October for the World of Learning Conference, and then we will be back here this time next year to talk about the World of Learning Summit again. And what happens on those conferences is very much based on the feedback and the information that we get from you. So if you've got hot topic that we really must have a chat about this, we need to talk about these things. If you think, oh, we can't really say that because it's not very fashionable, good. That's exactly what we want. We know what the fashionable stuff is. We can read as well as you can. So what we really want is the stuff which says, oh, actually, has anybody done a session on something like this? Because this is the challenge that I've got, or this is the challenge we've got. Because believe me, somebody else will have the same challenge. So let us know what's worked, let us know what else you need, let us know how else we can do things. Would you please, before you leave, do 3 things for me, okay? The first thing is, can you thank all of the people from venture marketing, some of them wearing orange shirts, some of them wearing badges, Lorenzo running around with a microphone because he's worked his little socks off, so thank him for his involvement. Can you also thank all of the team from Aztec Media without whom none of this stuff happens. They have been marvelous. Thank you, guys. I would extend that to the ministry security guys. Just think, if you've been to the lavatory down the end of the corridor there and down the stairs, one of them has to sit there all day watching people go to the toilet. Not literally watching people go to the toilet. You know what I mean, yeah? What a job. So say thanks to those people as you go past them as well on the way out. I have said a third thing, okay? 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I am fine. My cancer is not sufficiently advanced for me to worry about treatment and all of those things. If you are, or if you know, a man over 50, you can go and ask for a test which is literally a blood test which takes 2 seconds. Please ask people to do that. This is the single most vindictive cancer, and it kills more men aged over 50 than anything else. It also now affects more people than women with breast cancer in the UK, which is not to minimize breast cancer at all, it is to show the scale of this. Please, if you know men over 50, ask them to do that. I am well, I am lucky, I caught it early. I would like everybody else to be in my position. Thank you very much. Have a safe journey.